The air was crisp, different from the humid summer days. Fall had arrived in their small town. It was Friday night, and the stadium lights were already shining bright. This was the scene every year, as predictable as the changing leaves. But this year was different. This was the last season for Jason, the captain of the football team, and Sarah, the girl who saw the world through her camera lens. Jason and Sarah had been friends since elementary school. They grew up together, sharing laughter and secrets. He was the star athlete, the one everyone cheered for. She preferred the quiet sidelines, capturing moments in time with her camera. This year, their routine continued. Jason led his team onto the field, the weight of expectation on his shoulders. Sarah stood ready, her camera a comforting presence. But something had shifted between them. Each Friday night, as the crowd roared and the game unfolded, Sarah noticed a new intensity in Jason's eyes. Maybe it was the pressure of the season, the last one before college, or maybe it was something else. She found herself drawn to him, not just as her friend, but in a way that made her heart race. As for Jason, he started noticing how Sarah's face lit up with every perfect shot. Her quiet passion, so different from his own, intrigued him. Their lives were a study in contrasts. Jason thrived on the noise and energy of the game. The cheers of the crowd fueled him, the pressure pushing him to perform. Sarah found beauty in the details others often missed. The way the light hit the leaves, the expressions of players on the sidelines, these were the moments she treasured. Despite their differences, they shared a deep understanding. They could talk for hours about everything and nothing. He'd tell her about the pressure he felt, the weight of the town's expectations on his shoulders. She'd confide in him about her dreams of being a photojournalist, her fear of leaving their small town behind. As the season progressed, their conversations became longer, their silences more comfortable. They started seeking each other out, not just on Fridays, but during the week too. A shared joke, a knowing glance, these small moments became charged with unspoken feelings. They were both scared, unsure of what this meant, and hesitant to jeopardize their friendship. But the more time they spent together, the harder it became to deny the truth. With each passing game, the reality of graduation loomed larger. College applications were sent, acceptance letters received. Jason was being scouted by big schools, his talent impossible to ignore. Sarah got into a prestigious photography program in a city miles away. They were excited, of course, but a shadow of uncertainty had settled over their newfound feelings. The thought of being apart, of not seeing each other every day, was difficult to comprehend. They hadn't talked about what the future held, about what would happen to them after graduation. Would they stay friends? Could they be something more, even with the distance? The unspoken questions hung heavy in the air, a silent tension underlying their every interaction. One Friday night, after a particularly tough game, Sarah found Jason sitting alone by the bleachers. He looked defeated, the weight of the world on his shoulders. She sat beside him, not saying a word, just offering him a comforting presence. He turned to her, his eyes filled with a mix of frustration and something else she couldn't quite place. The state championship game. This was, the culmination of years of hard work, dedication, and dreams. The energy in the stadium was just electric. The crowd was a sea of their school colors, cheers echoing through the night. Jason was laser-focused, leading his team with a quiet confidence that honestly calmed Sarah's racing heart. She moved along the sidelines, capturing the intensity of the game, her lens never leaving Jason for too long. The game was a nail-biter, a real back-and-forth struggle for dominance. Then, in the final quarter, it happened. Jason was injured. He lay on the field, clutching his leg, the crowd holding its breath. Sarah's heart lurched, her own pain mirroring his. He was helped off the field, his face etched with disappointment. But Jason wasn't done. With minutes left on the clock, he convinced the coach to let him play. Limping, but determined, he returned to the field. The crowd went wild, their cheers echoing Sarah's own desperate hope. And then, in a moment of pure magic, Jason threw the game-winning touchdown. The crowd erupted, the sound absolutely deafening. But for Sarah, the world narrowed to one person. She raced towards Jason, her camera forgotten. He saw her, a smile spreading across his face. And in that moment, surrounded by the chaos of victory, he knew he couldn't wait any longer. "Sarah, wait," Jason called out, his voice hoarse. She turned back, her heart pounding. He limped towards her, his eyes searching hers. "There's something I need to tell you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. He paused, taking a deep breath. "I think I'm in love with you." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. This was it, the moment she'd both longed for and dreaded. "Jason, she began, unsure of what to say, how to respond to the confession that mirrored her own unspoken feelings. Before she could reply, he continued, his voice filled with a new vulnerability. "I know this is probably the worst time, with graduation and everything, but I couldn't let you leave without knowing how I feel." They stood there for a moment, the noise of the celebrating crowd fading into the background. Then, Sarah did the only thing she could think to do. She reached out and took his hand, her fingers intertwining with his. The weeks that followed were a blur of goodbyes and promises. They spent every moment they could together, knowing that soon they would be miles apart. They talked about their fears, their dreams, their hopes for the future, and they made a pact to stay connected, to make this work, no matter what. Their goodbyes were bittersweet, filled with tears and promises whispered into the night. As Sarah drove away, she looked back at Jason, his figure growing smaller in her rearview mirror. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure: she wasn't going to let go of him without a fight. They were starting new chapters in their lives, miles apart, but connected by a shared history, a love that bloomed under the Friday night lights. And every Friday night, as Jason stepped onto the field and Sarah set up her camera in a new city, they would look up at the same sky, their hearts beating in unison, a silent promise echoing between them.